In this video, we are going to have a continuation of a previous lesson that we had in regards to using AI and Power BI, using artificial intelligence with Power BI. But before we get started, you already know the deal. Scan the QR code, follow the link, input your email address, and become a member of our community. Become a member of our community, the community of CTOs. That's right, become a member of the community of CTOs. What do you get with becoming a member of the CTOs, T, you ask? That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. So here's the deal. You get our weekly newsletter, which is the heartbeat of the community. The weekly newsletter is the heartbeat of the community. So what comes in the weekly newsletter once a week? You get the weekly newsletter once a week. You get access to our jobs portal. Now, it's not just any jobs portal. It's an actual Power BI job portal. I tell you guys all the time, listen, don't take jobs that are too low. Don't take jobs that are too high. Take jobs that are right there in the middle to where you're not expected to know too much, and right there in the middle to where you will be able to get that right at above six-figure income. Now, in addition to the jobs portal, what you also get is you get access to the free weekly webinars. You have to be a member of the CTO in order to get access to the weekly webinars. All you have to do is scan the QR code, follow the link, input your email address, and voila, you're a member of the CTOs. Now, what does that really mean? That means you have to pay to be a member of the CTOs. You get access to jobs. You get a weekly webinar where it's held every Thursday from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We talk everything Power BI, from jobs to actual measures, other different forms of measures and DAX, data modeling, building a Power BI report, how to move throughout your organization if you're already in the organization, but you're just getting started in Power BI, how to pivot into a new career if you are not already in tech, you're not using Power BI, but you want to get into Power BI, how to make that pivot. We talk everything Power BI, right? So that's a major advantage to where you get access to myself, every Thursday, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, again, only members of the CTOs have access, and you have to register to let me know that you are going to be coming to that event. But it is a totally free event. Now, speaking of other events, I do events around the country. Power of the BI Live. As a matter of fact, we have Power of the BI Live Dallas coming up May 1st and 2nd. If you want access to Power of the BI Live Dallas, now again, that's not a free event. That is an event there's some cost to it, but it's accessible to the members of the CTOs. It's going to be held live Friday, May 1st, Saturday, May 2nd, 8 hours per day. That's 16 hours of learning. Hey, if you want to participate in Power of the BI Live, I encourage you to follow the link, become a member of the CTOs. In addition to, I have my recommended equipment list. You'll have access to my recommended equipment list, and a whole lot more. I can't even give you all the stuff that's going on with Power of the BI Live. I mean, not Power of the BI Live, but I can't give you all the stuff that's going on in the weekly newsletter in one shot and not spend too much time in the video. So with that said, again, scan the QR code, follow the link, input your email address, and become a member of the CTOs, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday nights. Now, with that said, let's jump right over into the video. So as you remember, when we put in our prompt, into ChatGPT, and we asked it to give us suggestions for a Power BI report, what visuals we could use, given that we had certain columns and certain data within the Power BI report. What visuals could we use? So with that output, as you remember, we got several visualizations, we got several different reports, and we had some measures that we created. We created the measures in the previous video, so we're not going to go back over the measures. But in this particular video, we're going to what I want to talk about now is the actual visuals in a report that we could create from using ChatGPT. Now, the report that we're looking at right here is really not actually a Power BI report. It's really an example that was given to us by ChatGPT, because ChatGPT didn't have all the data that we have, right? So it could only give us an example of a report to create, which gives us, it allows us to have a starting point. If you have some problems with creativity, you know, where should my report, I've got this information, you're good. Let me back up and let's say it a different way. You're good at creating, you're good at bringing in the data, aggregating the data, doing whatever you need to do with the data, making sure that the data is validated and that kind of stuff. But you're like, once I got this information, what type of report, what type of visual should I be putting in a report, and how should that report look? Unless you're given the specific information from your stakeholders, and your stakeholders are saying, hey, we want KPIs, we want we want bar charts and column charts. We want the column chart to represent this, the bar chart to represent that, the donut chart to represent this, a pie chart to represent that, a ribbon chart to represent this, and a matrix to represent that. And that's what we want to see in the Power BI report. Typically, 99.99 times out of 100, you're not going to get that specific information in your instructions in order to build out a report. They're expecting for you to use your creativity to build the report. So now that you have the data, now that you have everything that you need, you've got the data, you got measures created. Now it's, okay, take this thing to the next level. Now I need to actually create the report. So you've got a creativity, you're in a creativity funk, or you just need assistance with creativity when it comes to building out the report and putting the visuals in different places on the report so that you can actually have something to produce. So that's what we got from ChatGPT. ChatGPT say, hey, you've got these columns, you've got this data. This is what we think would be a good visualization for your report. So I look at it and I say, okay, well, cool. Now I can identify the different types of visuals that are in the report. I see across the top here, we've got a KPI card here. We've got another KPI card. We've got another KPI card and another KPI card. In addition to, over to the side, we have an area chart. Then down at the bottom left, we've got a donut chart. We have a bar chart, and we have a ribbon chart. I think that's pretty cool. I very seldom use ribbon charts, not necessarily because I don't want to, it's just, I don't necessarily use a whole lot of ribbon charts, but I think a ribbon chart is a pretty cool visual. So as we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 visuals on the report. Now, if you haven't heard me say it before, I'll say it right now. I like to keep my visuals somewhere between 6 and 10, somewhere between 6 and 10 on a report. I don't like to have many more than 10 visuals and not much less than 6 visuals unless, I'm not going to go into that, but I like to have between 6 and 10 visuals. With this one having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 visuals, I mean, I think that's a pretty good, I think that creates a pretty good landscape, pretty good architectural landscape for the visuals on a report. So I'm definitely going to say that this is design-wise fits within what I consider to be my criteria. And you got to remember, I didn't place in the prompt, because we could have put in the prompt, give me a report, included in the report to give us a report that has no more than 10 visuals, no less than 6 visuals. But it just popped out 8. And that's a good thing. So now what we also have to understand is, again, the data, we did not give Power BI the data. We just said, hey, we have a data set and we have column with the names X, Y, and Z, right? And because we have those column names, Power BI kind of took it for granted as to what values would be returned. Now, we could have been a lot more specific, and we could have said, hey, we have a data set with the column names being X, and the values within each one of the columns are returning X, Y, Z, X1, X2, X3, Y1, Y2, Y3. You get what I'm saying, right? So we could have been very specific and said what data was being returned. We could have told it what the data types were of the column. which would have gave us a much more specific report. But we were very general because all we wanted to do was just get a landscape design of what the Power BI report should look like. Now again, I mentioned before, in a previous video, that yeah, AI is good to use. AI is good to use, but it's only as good as the person that inputs the prompt. And if you don't know what the prompt is, it's not going to work for you. So with Power BI, you've got to know, hey, this is the type of information that we're looking for in Power BI. For instance, we're building at the end result of a Power BI report, or is the actual report, is the visualizations within the report, and what type of visuals are needed for the visualizations, right? If you don't know that, I mean, you're walking into ChatGPT and saying, hey, ChatGPT, give me a Power BI report. And it gives you a Power BI report, and it puts these several different visuals on here. But if you don't know what a KPI is and where to locate it on the Power BI report, it's not even going to help you. If you don't know what a donut chart is, you think a donut chart is a pie chart, it's not going to help you. You've got to know what you're looking for. You've got to know what you're expecting at the end result. But you know, and that makes us okay, right? So what I'm gibbering about here is not necessarily for you. But what I want you to do is take a look at what we have being a Power BI report. That's just an example. We've got 4 KPI cards across the top. We've got a donut chart, a bar chart, a ribbon chart at the bottom, and an area chart at the top. So what I am going to do is I am going to bring over the Power BI report. And what I want to do is I want to take this example, and I want to create a Power BI report utilizing this example. This is just giving me the starting point of what I want to create. So let's look at the Power BI report. Let's see, let's bring it over here. And we're going to maximize the size. Now, so we've got a blank layout for a report in the report view. We've got a blank layout in the report view. And basically now what we're looking for is we're looking for the KPI cards. So I pulled in the KPI card, and basically what I want to do is I want to create 4 KPI cards as we did, as was given in the ChatGPT example. So what I'm doing here is I took one KPI card, and now I formatted it to the size that I wanted it. And after formatting to the size I wanted, then I am duplicating it 3 other times so that I could have 4 KPI cards that have the exact same sizes. So that was bringing in the KPI cards. Now, what I want to look at is bringing in the donut chart. And if you remember, the donut chart had the width of 2 of the KPI cards. So I'm going to stretch the donut chart out so that it has the width of 2 KPI cards, and it had a rectangular length. So now that's what we have here. We have 4 KPI cards. We have a donut chart. Now I want to bring in the bar chart. And if you remember, the bar chart as well was the width of the next 2 KPI cards. So I'm going to make that bar chart the same width as the next 2 KPI cards. And if you remember, the bar chart was the same length as the donut chart. So basically all we're doing here is we are creating the landscape, the architectural design, the aesthetics of the aesthetics of the report to match the example that we were given as close as possible. It doesn't have to be exact, because the example that we received from AI was simply just an example. That's all it was. It got us the starting point. So now I just brought in the area chart, and the area chart was on the top of the area chart was at the same height as the KPI cards, but it was slightly overlapping the bar chart and donut chart. Then we have the ribbon. We have the ribbon chart, which is going to be the same width as the area chart. It's going to have the bottom, it's going to be at the same bottom as the donut chart and the bar chart. And that's going to give us a very nice aesthetic design, architectural design for our Power BI report. Then we are going to look at the different KPIs, and we see that we want to bring in the KPIs for the customers. We want to bring the KPI in for the total quantity ordered. Now, again, please remember that the measures that we have that we're bringing in for the KPIs, these are not the same measures. These are not the same values that are used in our that were provided in our example. Again, we did not provide actual data into Power BI so that we would be able to duplicate the actual report down to the data that's being input. Again, we could have. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that you should do that on the job. 99, I hate using 100%, but 99.99% of the time, you should not input data, actual data into your Power BI report, into your ChatGPT, because at that point, you're feeding the machine, and you could be feeding the machine, you could be feeding Power BI information that it could be trained on that you don't want to provide, because it could be information that's sensitive to your organization. So I'm never going to tell you to input data into Power BI unless it's fictitious data. I create reports all the time that's fictitious data, but actual data that you're using within an organization, no. And most organizations won't even allow you. Well, let me back up and say it a different way. Organizations should have their ChatGPTs locked down to where you're not even able to put that data in there. Copilot is a little bit different, because Copilot is a lot more secure than ChatGPT when it comes to organizational data. I'm not going to beat that dead horse too much longer. I think you're getting the point there. So we have created our 4 KPI cards. We've created our donut chart, and we have created our bar chart. And for the bar chart, we used location and orders. So basically what this is going to end up becoming, not necessarily an executive dashboard, it's going to become an order dashboard, right? Or an order report, because the data that we're going to be using is going to be all representing the visuals that we're creating is going to be all some type of order related. So we've got total customers, we got total quantity ordered, we got customer revenue, and we have total transactions in our KPI cards. And then in our donut chart, we are looking at gender by total quantity ordered. In our bar chart, we're looking at location by total quantity ordered. In our area chart, we're looking at foot traffic location by total quantity ordered. And in our ribbon chart, we are looking at foot traffic by total quantity ordered. Let's see. Actually, I'm not going to change it. Foot traffic by total quantity ordered. Actually, the area chart and the ribbon chart are actually showing the same information. We're just looking at it a different way. I don't like doing that, and I typically don't. In a real world scenario, I would make one of those a little bit, I'll make one of those different. But just for the case of creating a Power BI report from the example in our AI generated example, I'm going to keep it the same. But what I'm doing here is I am reformatting the number size, the value size of the KPIs so that so that actual value could fit, because as you can remember, the 3.12 million did not fit, but by changing the size of the value, now it's giving us a better aesthetic. So as we are formatting, now what I want to do is I'm also looking at what is the background color of the actual example? And it seemed that the background color was a gray. So what I'm doing now is I'm formatting the background color to be an actual gray color. We don't have the exact color that was used in the example, but we do have grays that we can use. So again, the example that we use in the AI generated report is simply an example to get us started. Now that we've gotten started, I'm looking at the corners of the reports. And when I create Power BI reports, I like for my Power BI reports not to have just hard edges. So I'm also going to be looking at making rounded corners. But before we do that, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that the KPI cards were all the same size. Now we know that the KPI cards were all the same size because all we did was copy and paste. We copy and paste what we duplicated, which was a copy and paste for each one of the KPIs. Then for the donut chart and the bar chart, given that they're on the same line, I wanted to make sure that they were the same, had the same height and width as well. However, when we bounced into the ribbon chart and the area chart, trying to make the area chart and the ribbon chart the same size, it kind of threw us off a little bit. So basically, I kept the ribbon chart the same width, but then I did drag it back down so that it would have a better aesthetic. And it looks like it's almost the same size when we are looking at the ribbon chart and the area chart. Now we're going in and we're going into the KPIs, to KPI cards, and we're saying, hey, we don't just want the hard edges. We want rounded hard corners. We want the rounded edges. So I'm making the rounded edges with 8 picks, and I'm taking away I'm creating a border, but I'm taking away the black visual border and making the visual border white. That's just something that I like to do. It's personal preference at this point. You could keep the visual border black. You can make the visual border thicker. I'm keeping the visual border at 1, but I'm changing the visual border from being black to being being white. So it's not a black border. And what I'm doing is I'm going across all of the visuals. Of course, we've gone across the KPIs. We've done the top row, including the area chart. Now we're down at the bottom row, and we're creating the pixel. We're creating the visual borders with rounded corners for the donut chart, for the bar chart, and now for the ribbon chart. Two, three, five, 7. Now, if you remember, we actually had, I believe, 8 visuals on our report that was kicked out for the produced for the example that was produced in AI. However, in our example, we have we have 8, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I was thinking we had 7. But we actually had we actually created the same types of visuals within our KPI cards. Within our visualizations for the report. Dun, 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 dun. And so it looks like we are pretty close to having the same effect. So we pretty much made this thing our own when we added the rounded corners. But for the most part, it's very similar to the example that we use. Let's see if I can pull that back up. Let's see here, just so you can see how close we are to the example. And I gotta minimize here. I'm gonna bring this over. So as you can see here, we have the four KPI cards coming across the top. We've got the donut chart, we've got the bar chart, we have the area chart and the ribbon chart. And remember, this is the version that we actually used in AI, that was actually suggested as an example in AI. So we can kind of see set side by side if I show you here. But what we want to make this thing. So we want to The colors we have here are actually the standard colors that are produced when you create a Power BI report, but you can change the colors. So we want to kind of use the colors that we used in the example just to get an idea of how close we can get to making this thing, or how close the example could be for us to create or replicate different visuals for the visualizations of the Power BI report. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm just changing the colors so that we can get a pretty close match of the gray, because in the Power BI report example that was given, you know, we have shades of gray. I don't know if that's shades of gray or shades of blue. I want to call it shades of gray. So the report itself is shades of blue. I mean, I'm gonna call it shades of gray. So it's in shades of gray. I didn't realize how close gray and blue was together. I didn't even, first time I paid attention to it. But now we are just changing the colors of the different visuals so that we can, you know, kind of give it our own feel, as opposed to having the standard, you know, Microsoft bluish colors in the report. I wanted to make the columns in the ribbon chart to be a little darker so we can see where the ribbon has the actual ribbons at in the report. So we've changed the bars to a shade of gray, to that darkest shade. We've changed the shaded area in the area chart to be the lighter gray, but the line is the darker gray. The columns in the ribbon chart are darker, and as it ribbons across, if that's a word, it's in the lighter shade. Then the donut chart has the darker shade of gray and the lighter shade of gray when it comes to gender, being male and female. So that brings us real close to having our Power BI report being fairly close to what the actual example was. Now looking at the example was shades of blue, where I did use shades of gray. But at the end of the day, we do have a Power BI report that we were able to create from an example using a prompt used in ChatGPT. So with that said, we are wrapping up our creation of the Power BI report utilizing AI ChatGPT to give us an example of a report that can be created. And I hope you learned something there. Thank you for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.